Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with You, our dance alumni panel. We are so happy to have all of you with us for our fourth episode of this panel series. My name is Olivia Wise, and I'm Usdan's Manager of Marketing and Communications. So right off the bat, to start us off, in order to get us all in the Usdan spirit and bring us back to our colorful wooded campus, I'm going to play a very brief video about our dance department. So just bear with me one moment. One more moment. All right. Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to pass the mic over to Michelle Simone Miller, an alum and our moderator this evening. Michelle, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm an alum, and I'm also an actress in New York. And I also host a podcast called Mentors on the Mic, where I interview different people in the entertainment industry about how they moved up and where they are today. And so obviously this is something I'm passionate about. I'm naturally curious. I want to know these things. I want to ask the questions that you guys hopefully have. And so this type of thing is a passion of mine. And I'm so happy to be able to work with Usdan to do these amazing panels like this one. So I'm very excited. And yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a message on what is Conversations with You, right? Through Conversations with You, Usdan's panel discussion series, we bring together alumni from various fields to discuss their careers and lives. Through Conversations with You, we hope to connect our impassioned community and draw inspiration from the ways in which former Usdan students are contributing creatively to the world. This is actually our last panel event until the fall, which is a little sad. We're just taking a brief break because why? Well, we have camp. So Usdan is starting up as a camp. It's going to be a little hectic. There's going to be a lot going on, but we're going to start up again. I mean, that's literally, I think, in 2 weeks or something. But our visual art, our theater, and our music panels are available as a recording if you want to check it out. So then you'll have a full idea of some of the stuff we've done in the past. But just sort of to poll the audience, right? We kind of want to have an idea of, like, before we start, who are you? So we're just gonna do a couple brief questions with relating to the poll. So like in general, and people can either, I think we're gonna have a poll, and if not, we're just gonna answer it in the chat. Oh, here we go. Who is in the room? So like, are you an alum? Are you a current camper? Are you a staff or faculty? Are you just like a lovely supporter? Are you a parent or a caregiver? Are you a friend and you're just like, guys, this sounds really cool. I really want to be a part of this. And then the second question is, what brings you here today? Are you someone who's interested in learning more about the dance industry? Do you want to just connect to fellow alums? You're just really nostalgic for camp because it's starting in a couple of weeks and we're not going. Or you're just here for fun? So feel free to answer. And then at some point, we're just going to share the answers and we'll just get an idea who we're talking to. Because if we're talking to mostly alum, that's a completely different conversation if we're mostly talking to parents or campers, or if you want to know more about the dance industry specifically, then, you know, we'll make it very tailored to you. So, all right, I think most people are answering. We're going to share results in a second. Let's see who you are, shall we? Let's see. Okay. Let's see. All right. So we have mostly current campers at 33%, and then alum as well. Some staff, some parents. Thank you guys. And then most people are here for fun, and they want to learn about the dance industry, and they want to connect to fellow alums. So I love that. That's a little bit of each. So we have a lot to work with. Thanks, guys. And just as a quick aside, can you write in the chat if you've been here before? Have you come to one of these events? If you can write down in the chat just as we go, I'd love to know if you've come to like our visual arts one, our theater one, our music one, just kind of get an idea if we've seen you before. But on that note, so let's start this wonderful panel. I don't even know what an alumni is. That's a great question. Alumni are people who have gone to Usdan, right? So if you're an alum of Usdan like I am, that means you went as a camper, and it's like a past tense thing. I can no longer, unfortunately, go to Usdan as a camper. So I'm an alumna. I'm someone who used to go there. So if you go to Usdan right now, then you will become an alumna when you're done, or an alum. Lovely. So this is great. Oh, I'm so happy. Lovely. So we are so fortunate to have the people that we have here today. We have people who are in different places in the dance industry, so they have different perspectives on what to share. I'm really excited about this. I'm an actor, but I think the last time I danced might have been in Usdan. Like, that's how long ago it was. But I have such an appreciation for it. Obviously, it's something that I like to support and like to be a part of, and I have so many questions. So I'm going to have these lovely women introduce themselves because they will do it far better than I will. So Jessica, why don't you start? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And then also the question we like to ask is, can you give us either some idea of what kind of camper you were at Usdan or some sort of favorite memory at Usdan?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica. I grew up in New York City, and I started dancing at a very young age. I think I was actually like 2.5. It was my first ballet class. Wow. And I studied ballet pretty intensely for my whole life, except when I went to Usdan when I was 8 and 9 years old, and I started tap at Usdan. That was my first exposure to tap dance. And then after high school, I went to the Boston Conservatory. I got my BFA in dance. And then after that, I came back to New York and I pursued a dance career in musical theater. So I've done lots of musicals across the country, tap dancing, singing, using my ballet training to be the best dancer that I can be. And sort of taking your question and going back, I mean, my first exposure to tap was at Usdan, and I loved it. I had such a great teacher, and that really, I had to keep doing it throughout the year. What kind of a camper was I? Well, my major was ballet, and then my minor was tap, and then I swam. But I was probably a serious, very focused camper, as many dancers are.
That's a lot of physical activity in one day. Like, I was just thinking about that. So you did ballet in the morning, you swam in the afternoon, and then you tap danced again, like after that.
Yes.
It's a very physical day.
Yes, a very physical day. But, you know, I was 8 and 9 years old.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. When you like it, it feels like exciting and different. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Yeah. And Rebecca, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then also what kind of camper you were, or maybe some sort of favorite memory at Usdan?
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here tonight with all of you. I was born and raised on Long Island and was also, like Jessica, dancing from a very small age, mostly concentrating on ballet and jazz. Didn't really find myself tapping. I wanted to, it just wasn't for me. But then when I was around 10 or 11-ish, I couldn't really figure it out, but that's when my mom finally convinced me to try Usdan, and I was a little nervous at first. And I immediately took to how beautiful it was when we got there. And I was a painting major at first, actually. Yeah, so I was a painter and a dancer. and I minored in ballet. But then I think it was right the next summer, I was like, I want to take dance more seriously. And I was surrounded by very serious ballet dancers and jazz dancers. And I think my third year, I was at Usdan for 5 years, 5 or 6 years. Again, it's like that 1 year, I'm like, I have to look back in like a photo album or in somewhere in paperwork. But it's funny, I think it's almost like 20 years now since I haven't been at Usdan. But I was always so in love with how Usdan treated us like sophisticated artists, like from such a young age. And now I work as a dance movement therapist, actually. So I took my dance training through college, and then after college, I had to make a choice. Am I gonna stick it out and try to audition every day like some of my friends? Or was I gonna try something else? And I discovered that there is a field that exists, and it's called dance movement therapy. So that's what I do right now, living in New York City. And the kind of camper I was, also very serious, but also just in love with the nature. And I remember me and my friends, we would play like off into the woods sometimes, but like always made it to our classes on time. Also loving swimming, and yeah, just couldn't imagine it any other way. Like just completely immersed in the entire Usdan scenery and having the most fun in the world.
It's so beautiful. I mean, Rebecca, I don't know if you know this, but I think there's like a nature major now at Usdan. So it's something you can actually major in. I know. I had the same reaction. I was like, that's cool. I wonder if I would have done that.
Maybe would have minored in it. Yeah.
Nature and sustainability. How amazing.
I'm such a fan. And I think if that's where your heart is, in nature and sustainability, then oh my gosh, Usdan is so smart.
Usdan's the place to do it. Yeah, I agree. So I love that both of you actually have a really great sort of perspective on dance, because not everyone, leaves sort of school, which I want to talk about first, and just does one thing with dance. There's many things you can do with dance, and you guys both represent different things you could do. So let's start with school. How did you decide what school and what you wanted to study there? How did you decide some people like to go to school and study art later on, and some people are like, you know what, I'm just going to go right at it. What was your thought process? How did you decide what you wanted to study?
So my experience, as I said earlier, I was very serious ballet dancer growing up. I thought that was going to be my path. I was going to dance with a ballet company. And I had applied to the Boston Conservatory as Plan B. And the summer before, I was going to apprentice with the Miami City Ballet, and the summer or the fall, or the summer right before the fall, I went to the summer program and something just didn't feel right. It wasn't for me, it wasn't me. And I ended up going with my Plan B, which was the Boston Conservatory. And it was absolutely the right move. So I guess from my experience, it's always important to have a Plan B and listen to your gut, because it took me on the path, on the right path.
Yeah, same. I really was quite on the fence with the college that I wanted to go to. I knew that I was in high school, I was able to go to Nassau BOCES, Long Island High School for the Arts. So I was really just sort of, I knew I wasn't like 100% with one school, but a lot of my peers and people like my teachers would talk about whether the conservatory path was what you should focus on, or if you want to go to a big university and sort of leave your options more open. And I knew I wanted to live in the city. I wanted to stay in New York and be close to my family and also be in the art world. And I sort of had like an unspecific mapping idea. And I, was really grateful to be able to rely on my teachers from high school and then also my family. Even though I wasn't really 100%, but I wound up picking Marymount Manhattan College on the Upper East Side. And, looking back on it, it was absolutely where I was supposed to be. I majored by the end of school. I was really into choreography and modern choreography, and really looked up to all the dancers, like postmodern dancers in the Judson Dance Theater and Twyla Tharp. And I just knew that exactly, listening to your gut. And as a dancer, it's, really easy to like hold your gut a lot and like sort of to not let things flow sometimes when they're supposed to be flowing. And like, I think the second I just like let myself flow and trust my training, like my many years of training, that's when my intuition started kicking in, and like, all the other parts of the artist or like the artist way started kicking in. But like, I'm sure that's not just the dancer, that's in all the different art forms that we could choose that eventually, relax into that.
Absolutely. I just finished The Artist's Way a couple months ago. Huge fan of that system. And
I have to go back. I have to try.
So good. I should
go
too. There's a book, guys, called The Artist's Way that maybe one day you'll pick up. It's really good. And it has like a whole system for anyone creative. Olivia's done it too. Oh, lovely. Great. So you went to school, and was it in school that you kind of had an idea of how you wanted to maybe figure out how to incorporate dance as a career? Were you able to kind of come up with it then? Or was it something like afterwards? I mean, for example, like Jessica, you obviously went to Boston Conservatory. Did you know what you wanted to do when you leave and you were kind of training for that purpose? Did you feel ready when you graduated to kind of take the business by storm, that kind of thing?
So when I got into the Boston Conservatory, I would say after my freshman, maybe sophomore-ish year, I knew that musical theater was going to be my path.
Okay.
So nobody could tell me otherwise. And actually, while I was at the Boston Conservatory, there's a great theater in Waltham, Massachusetts, that's now called the Regal Music Theater.
I went to Brandeis in Waltham.
You know Waltham then.
I love Waltham.
There's a theater there, and one summer, it's a summer stock theater, and they were doing 3 musicals. They were doing the Will Rogers Follies, Thoroughly Modern Millie, and Beauty and the Beast. And I was, I think, 19 at the time. And my mom said, just get in a cab and go audition. And so I did, just like not really knowing where Waltham is.
It's not like a easy play. Okay. Well,
no.
Yeah, it's like it's random. It's like a little mini thing in the middle.
But I auditioned, and then that summer I did the Will Rogers Follies and Beauty and the Beast. So that was my first sort of summer stock musical experience, and it was amazing. So not only, and then I worked there pretty much every summer while I was in college. So that was also my training, to be honest.
100%. Yeah, your resume and your training and an idea of like how to do this outside of school. Because I think that's sometimes a difficulty for anyone in the industry. I feel like there's this element of like, okay, I've been studying this for so long, and now it becomes a career, right? Yeah. We're so used to this being a hobby, something that we study in school, something we go to camp for, and we have a passion for it. And then it's like, you make that decision, okay, do I want to continue doing this? how was that transition for you guys, for just being like, I am now doing this as a career. I'm now trying to get money for something that I've been working at and doing for fun for so long.
I guess.
So for me, I just,
This happens in Zoom. I could be specific. We'll say Rebecca. We'll go to Jessica.
yeah, I mean, I felt like I really, I learned a lot in Marymount. I just knew I wasn't done being a student yet. And like for a little while, I was like, I was feeling like, okay, why can't it just be, you know, this? But then I realized I'm very, very, very interested in this social, psychological, like when Black Swan came out, I was like, that is so crazy. Like, how could a director write that whole, you know, that whole movie, and it like makes so much sense to me on a visceral and like, and even just talking to my friends, like why was this so powerful? And then I decided, you know, I'm a very sensitive person, and I just really hustled. And like one day I was like, you know, getting ready for graduation, and one day I heard one of my dancer friends talking about Pratt. And I was like, my mom went to Pratt for graphic design. Like, why are they talking? What does Pratt have to do with dancing? So then I, you know, looked online, and there's this whole master's in science program for dancing and dance and art therapy. And and like so many of my colleagues now are like, yeah, a lot of us just felt like this field was made or designed for us, like this type of artist or this type of person who wants to use the arts to help people on a bio, psycho, social, medical even level. Because as a lot of the people on this chat, on this call right now probably know, that dance is extremely therapeutic. So that's where I'm at now. And I'm actually in my third year of working in the New York City hospital system with a bunch of artists. And, you know, we kind of laugh because, you know, we're still just like the artists in this like very non-artsy environment where we get to be ourselves, and we get to talk about our training like as if it's it doesn't go away. It really doesn't go away. And I still take dance class, and I still work on my artistry. So you know, I of course have friends who are in incredible, you know, dance companies still, and it's just amazing to see how like it's just this giant spider web of possibilities.
Yeah, and I think people they're not aware sometimes of the possibilities, but there really are many. And these are, you guys are great examples of what we can do. And, you know, if we think of art, any sort of art, including dance, as being, you know, I think especially in the pandemic, everyone saw the importance of art, whether it's something as watching a show on Netflix or watching an animated movie, whether it's listening to music, you watching beautiful, you know, dance. I think there's something about it that all of a sudden, it was like, especially in the pandemic, I was having all these friends and people saying like, oh, thank God for X. Thank God I get to just listen to my music and relax, because that's the stuff that feeds our soul. And it's interesting how, you know, we're all able to do that. I'll ask more questions about that as well, but I wanted Jessica to be able to answer the question about transitioning from, you know, hobby to career or anything like that. Was there something you wanted to say about that?
I think in general, if I had to sum that up, I think whatever art form, if you choose to be an artist, dance, painting, writing, you have to love it. You have to love it. I think when you finish school, there's nobody taking attendance to see if you're there. You're responsible for yourself. You're the one then who has to get up in the morning and go to your ballet class. Sometimes it's really hard, but when you love it, you're at that bar taking class. And it's, I think from hobby to career, it's really the work that you choose to put into it. So you have to love it and you have to work hard.
Oh, absolutely. And you're also paying for your classes now, which is
Correct.
different than having, right, your parents. Well, there was a good portion of my life. My family was just paying for my classes. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I have to take my own acting classes. Got it. I have to pay for those add up. Got it. Yeah, excellent. So my next thing, and this is going to be more specific to each one of you, because like we said, we're on different sort of paths of the same world. But like, we'll start with Jessica, for instance. So, you know, you leave and now you're pursuing theater, right? Which is incredible. So we talked about a couple of the shows you've done. Can you give us an idea of, and by the way, everyone, I didn't mention this earlier, but start writing your questions in the chat. We're going to do a Q&A in about 15 minutes or so. So if there's a question I'm not answering, this is the time you can start asking. But Jessica, if you could give us an idea of what it was like to audition for dance. What's a typical audition like? It's obviously probably a little different now, maybe, but I know a lot of musical theater is still doing in-person stuff, but what's a typical audition like? How do you start, right? How do you start auditioning in dance?
So a typical musical theater audition, it's so crazy because it's now graduated. First, you looked in the newspaper backstage, then that graduated to like playbill.com and actorsequity.com. So now you search for auditions online and you see theaters are doing shows. And you know, you're right for their season. So you go to the audition and you want to represent yourself the best way that you can. And typically in a dance audition, a musical theater audition, if it's a tap show, they'll probably teach a short tap combination, or if it's the Music Man, maybe they'll do a ballet or jazz combination. And usually after that, then there's a cut, and then they maybe do another combination, and then they cut again, and then you sing, because you have to sing if you're in musical theater, and then maybe you sing about 16 bars of music. And then after that, if you're lucky, you get maybe a call back and you come back another day. And auditioning is almost like a job. You go to so many and rejection is part of it. And sometimes it's really hard, but it also, you sort of can't take it personally, because every show is unique and they're looking for this and they need this. And just because you're not this doesn't mean you're not right for the next job. And you sort of get used to it. And the wonderful, I'd say the positive about auditioning in musical theater is that while the community is very small, so I always encourage people to be kind because everyone knows each other, but you're always auditioning for somebody new. You walk through the door and there's a new director and a new choreographer. And so you have an opportunity to go, this is me, time step, hey. And then maybe you get cut, but then tomorrow you're going to a brand new audition with a brand new director and a brand new choreographer, and you do your little time step and your dance, and they go, oh, yeah, we're going to keep Jessica for next round. So you always have the opportunity. It's never this, I think in a ballet company, you are working with the same artistic director for years, but you sort of get a new chance every time you audition. So it's like a job.
It's like a job. Auditioning is a job. I feel like they should really work on just audition classes more in school, to be honest.
Yes.
And on that note, so Jessica, so when they do your dance, when they have dance auditions, do you audition for many, like with many people? Like, is it one of those things like in the movies? I have no idea actually, but we're like 15 people or whatever are all dancing the same choreography and everyone just stares and they're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, go. And like everyone has to go at once. Is it kind of like that, or is it individual?
So auditions are, I won't get into the crazy logistics of how it all works, but usually it's called an open call. So sometimes hundreds can show up, but then you're divided into groups, and then it depends on how many they want. They may say, we're going to dance 4 at a time. And so you stand in like a staggered line. But I always felt like the atmosphere in the room, we all know it's a job. We all know sometimes it's hard and everyone is sort of rooting for each other.
That's nice. Do you feel like that's most the case, that like mostly people are rooting for each other, and occasionally there's probably like those outliers that are like, I'm super competitive, I'm not going to talk to you, but mostly it's friendly, or is it?
I think mostly it's friendly, and especially
Okay.
like a crazy dance combination. I mean, we are all in this together.
Right, exactly. We're all like, what did they just do? We have to do that. Great.
And you actually
Lovely.
get to, because you see the same people at the same auditions over and over again. You become familiar with who they are.
Right.
You talk to them. But yeah, that's how it works.
And it's important to have different specialties in dance. Like, it's important to be able to be like, okay, I specialize in this dance and this kind of dance, and obviously can pick up this, or I'm somewhat good at this. How do you present yourself as being like, this is what I can do?
I think in musical theater, it's important to be versatile.
Yeah.
You just have trained in ballet, you will be limited.
Good to know.
So you have to be going to your jazz classes and you have to be going to your tap classes. With that being said, you also need to know who you are as best you can in your 20s and know your skill set. So maybe, you are only a tapper and you haven't had much ballet training, then probably going to an Oklahoma audition is not for you, or not for you yet.
Yeah.
So I think in musical theater, it's important to be versatile. You have to be now, really. But also be confident in what you bring to the table, because most of the time they want to see who you are, the best version of yourself, and that's really what they're looking for.
That's great advice. Yeah, I feel like at this point, every musical theater show that I go to, I feel like there's at least one tap number. Like you're watching, like I was watching Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't know if anyone in the audience has seen that yet, but well, it's now over, unfortunately. But there was just like out of nowhere, they just have this huge, massive tap number. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Like all these people know how to tap really well. It's amazing. And it's like, a lot of this, people in the chorus and the principal actors, they have to have that skill. And it's like, who has that skill? Who's going to be in the dance number today? And I think that's an interesting that you're right. You really have to have a very strong awareness and training in different forms of dance. So it's good for people in the audience to know.
Yeah.
Cool. Rebecca, I want to know a little bit more about you. So like, what kind of, like, how do you, first of all, now that you trained for this and you studied for this, and I'm so fascinated as to how you incorporate dance into therapy. So like, how does that work? Is it more classes? Is it more private, privates with individual people that you can kind of go, okay, this is what you need, this is what we're working on? How do you tailor it to those people? What's your normal situation?
Yeah, so
there's a lot of questions at once.
So one of the main founders of American Dance Movement Therapy, it was a classmate of Martha Graham. So her name was Marion Chase, and she worked in a veterans hospital in the late 1930s, and in Boston, no, not in Boston, but in Massachusetts, I want to say. And so she was a trained modern dancer. And so she used her knowledge and mostly her body knowledge to help these veterans with their PTSD from the war. So she would hold them in the group setting, and she would have that instrument that, how we just play our phones now to play music, but I'm picturing that how we used to listen to music with like
a stereo
record player. No, it's like a record.
Okay.
Like a record player, but anyhow, so she would let, the patients pick the music, and it was more of like a time for them to really express themselves and to feel safe and feel seen in that setting. So that was like my first introduction to dance movement therapy, that it really is a social venture. Like it's meant to be in clinical settings like hospitals, like schools. And my first internship was actually at a private preschool for children on the autism spectrum. So I got to work with the properties of dance, like how we can play with different rhythms, and there's all this different movement analysis that, lots of different jargon that you learn in grad school to help serve you and help, whoever you're working with. This population was children. Then my second internship was working outpatient methadone clinic. So people who are struggling with severe addiction.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes, so that was quite exciting. My supervisor has been a dance movement therapist. She's still my supervisor. She's been a dance movement therapist now for over 30 years, and she has a background in Buto dance, which is a Japanese dance form of moving really, really, really slowly. If you don't know, it's really testing that balance and tolerance for moving really slowly when maybe your environment is contrasting or juxtaposing how you're moving and how you're feeling and sensing and somatically, and really just looking at who we are as individuals in a dance movement lens, and looking at dance movement therapy really as a branch off of modern dance is really how I look at it, to serve in a different way.
That's so lovely. And so right now, do you also teach at the same type of places? Do you teach at like preschools and addiction? Is there more than that? Is it mostly focused on one of those? How does it work now?
So yes, dance movement therapy is a whole other field of, I don't want to say auditioning, because it's more just interviewing. I had two other jobs before the one that I'm currently in. The first one was at an assisted living. So I learned a lot about Alzheimer's and dementia, and
wow.
Really,
do you know which one you went to, or which assisted living place did you go to?
Yeah, the Bristol.
Oh, interesting.
The Bristol. Yeah, cool. It's like very, it's a big chain in New York of assisted livings. All different. Each facility is very unique. So I learned like each facility has a different culture. And so when I worked at the memory care facility with Alzheimer's dementia folks, I learned so much about how neurobiologically our brains, as we get older, start grasping on to things that we needed or that we learned when we were really young. And a lot of those, those main core values or those core memories are in music and dance. So that's something I worked there for a long time and help people gradually just get into that accepting stage of their lives to, in their elderly years, and also just create connections. And like, it's never too late to, socialize and make friends. And
absolutely.
So that was in a group setting. But now my second job was also in addiction, but now I'm also with more of an elderly population for the most part, but it's a medical psychiatry unit. So it's looking at the mind and the body, and really just meeting people where they're at.
Yeah. That's amazing. Fantastic, guys. Ugh, I could do a whole thing on each of you. So people, please ask more questions. Some of the questions I've seen so far are so good. So definitely ask some more. And then I wanted to ask each of you, because we kind of are about to talk about this, or both, I think both of you kind of led to this moment, but what changed for you in the pandemic? So obviously there might have been sort of a routine that happened before, that I'm curious as to what's changed, what happened during the pandemic, what's happening now that things are moving and kind of coming back. What's been different for you guys? And we can start with Jessica.
So when the pandemic hit, I mostly teach now, so I'm no longer auditioning or performing, and so I pretty quickly became a virtual dance teacher, very quickly, and but that has not stopped. So I've been teaching now virtually on Zoom for the past 2 years, and I've learned how to do it. And it's actually been amazing, because I now teach people all over the country virtually, which is really cool. And I'm back to teaching in person, but it's now a whole other platform for me. The other thing that changed is I also discovered that I love to write, and I began writing. So, and I've also continued to write poetry. I'm currently working on my first novel just because I love it. So
that's amazing.
Thank you. So that the pandemic, I was fortunate where I was at, and I was able to explore that side of my creativity as well.
Excellent. Yeah, that was kind of my next question, would be like, how do you guys stay creative? But this is it. Like, we're, as creative artists, that creativity comes from all these different places. And so it's lovely that you got to have the time to explore that. And we support you. Can't wait to hear more about the book as time goes on. And when you publish it, which I know you will, definitely let our community know, for sure. But that's so cool. And what kind of dance do you usually teach now via Zoom, just in case there are people in the audience who might want to? Yeah,
I teach the same subjects in person. I teach tap, ballet, and theater dance.
And for those in the audience, if you guys at any point would be interested in having some sort of dance workshop, maybe in the fall, if you could put it in the chat, maybe we'll do some sort of Zoom dance thing or something like that. If you're interested, let us know, send us a private message, or put it in the chat. That might be really fun to do as one of these type of things. And then Rebecca, how about you? How did things change with the pandemic? How is it different? Did everything stop? Did everything keep going in a different way? What was it like for you?
So the pandemic was really a test to my resilience, because I became an essential worker all of a sudden. Like, I was in that department of people. So March 2020, it was nothing really changed, and I have been working in person. Like, one of the only people that I knew for a while that was still working in person and like taking the subway, and there only being like one other person on the subway in the beginning of the pandemic. So that was really eerie and kind of uncomfortable. But like now, the hospital is, so it's steady. Like, it's really just like, that's where people are supposed to be if they don't feel well. And so like, that to me has just been like a constant, which I think has been both great, and then also I could sort of zoom out and see the full picture of our city and see, people are mostly virtual now, and I've been taking a slice out of that as well, and I've been just moving my services into more of a private practice setting. And I just recently started a group in a dance studio on the Lower East Side, like all of a sudden feeling like a dancer again, like I'm renting a studio and it feels great. To give people a taste of what dance movement therapy is, not saying that I'm their therapist, but giving them a taste of what group therapy feels like. And I've titled it Dance Movement Therapy for Unconditional Compassion.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that. Guys, this is so cool. Again, I could go on and on about, asking you guys each questions, but we actually have some great questions from people in the audience. So I'm gonna start doing that. In the meanwhile, if you have any more, send us, but we have a few. So Jessica wants to know, what is a conservatory program and what is included in the conservatory program?
So I guess I can speak for Boston Conservatory. A conservatory program, I danced all day. And then I had one liberal arts class, I think twice a week.
Was it writing?
It was not, but it was, it was like an English class. And I have to say it was very ballet and modern focused.
Okay.
I don't know how much that has changed over the last 10 years or so or more. I don't remember when I graduated right now, but for me, I really had to seek out, if I wanted a voice lesson or if I wanted a tap class, I had to seek that out myself because it wasn't provided. It was really ballet and modern focused. And then there was a couple stuff thrown in. But a conservatory, you're dancing all day.
Most of it. Yeah. And I feel like from what I've heard, the things that they do, like that extra stuff you were saying, where they sometimes threw it in, was in service for your dancing, right? It was like, we're giving you this, but this is because we want you to be a better dancer, as opposed to like, we're just giving you a break.
Right.
So we've had some great questions. Diana Crum, by the way, has been sort of saying how wonderful you are as a teacher. And she took a class with you during the pandemic. It was a Usdan family workshop. So love it. Excellent. And someone else said she was very nice and taught in a special way that was funny, but kept me focused. And so that's lovely. So great stuff from that. For both of you, when you go to buy tickets to see dance, who do you absolutely have to see? And who do you recommend this audience sees? It's a great question.
Wow, that's a tough question. Especially like since everything is coming back, or is almost.
People want to know.
Yeah, I guess I highly recommend. I don't know if he's ever going to come back with it, but David Byrne's American Utopia. Some of the dancers in that show were some of the most like impressive dancers I've seen in a really long time, in those gray suits, and they're also playing instruments at the same time. So if you play an instrument and dance, try doing it both at the same time, and you'll stand out for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I think for me, because I'm a ballet dancer forever and at heart, I will never get tired of going to the New York City Ballet.
Yeah.
Ballet is such a root for me, and I think it's so important. And it's, it's right there.
Yeah.
So, and an American Ballet Theater too, but yeah, probably going to the ballet. I will never
love it. Excellent, and good for people to know, especially if you're in the New York region. I know a lot of you are. Ignore that sound in the background. Catalina wants to know, specific to ballet or any dance, really, does it affect you if the teacher is like very strict? Is that something you get used to? Does it affect you emotionally? Like, how did that manifest for both of you?
What was the question again? Sorry.
So like in ballet or any dance, does it affect you if the teacher is like very strict? And how do you handle that?
Strict is an interesting word. My teachers growing up, because this is how I like to teach. My My ballet teachers growing up, they were demanding and they had expectations. You have to be on time. You have to wear your hair back. You're in fifth position, ready to go. That doesn't mean they were
Fifth
mean.
position's hard to be ready to go in. I mean, I had very basic ballet from when I was a kid. And I remember fifth position, your feet go like that. It's not easy at all. Can't believe that's your starting position, but go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Maybe you start in first, but
still, I mean, either one. Okay, go on. I'll stop.
But they were demanding, they had expectations in the classroom. That didn't mean that they were positive and encouraging at the same time. I think you can have a balance in the classroom. That's what and as a teacher, that's how I like to teach. I have expectations, I'm demanding, but I'm full of positivity and encouragement. As a kid, I did have some teachers that were, and they were from the Russian style, that were very strict with a hint of mean, and that was hard for me. I didn't respond well to that. So I don't study with those teachers.
Yeah,
and I find the
and
ones
you don't teach that way.
No, I could never.
To piggyback on Jessica's, I also trained with mostly Russian ballet teachers growing up. And like looking back on it, like to be on time, to be at the bar and to be ready, like I kind of put a positive spin on it now, just because I kind of feel like they were just looking out for our like safety and like our ability to like focus, especially as kids. Like you don't want to just like run into the room and be like all anxious, and you want to have some time to get ready. And I think that training and that strictness like really serves you in the future, like in many different settings. Like even if you don't decide to become a professional dancer when you grow up, like you're going to be on time for that interview, and you're going to have that discipline, or you're going to show up for your friend or your family member that needs you on time, and you're going to remember, oh, this is because of that strict teacher, like that ballet class. So like if I could tell my younger self that, even though I was a little like, oh, I would roll my eyes or whatever, that's what I would say.
I think that both of your answers really hit the nail on the head. And I think that people really hopefully will appreciate that, because, on one hand, yeah, first of all, take a positive spin on it and understand that like this might benefit you in the long run. But then if you find that the teachers are like bordering mean and you're feeling like it's too personal, it might be best to find another teacher, and that's okay. It's okay. I think as kids, it's hard to like know when to advocate for yourself and go like, I don't know, this might not be the right thing for me, but like these teachers are giving you permission to say this might not be the right teacher for me, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and I think like also as I got older, like preteen years, teen years, and I realized that like maybe the teacher had some baggage that they were like inappropriately putting out on us. Like I totally advocate for like telling your parent, like saying maybe like I don't want to go to this class anymore. Like that's
maybe they need therapy. Maybe it's a dance therapy, maybe it's some other therapy, but it doesn't have to do with you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with you. It doesn't have to do with your training. Yeah. But if it gets like unbearable and they're that toxic, then you could follow your gut. Like again, follow your gut instinct.
Great circle tie-in to that initial comment. I'm gonna ask one more question just because I know we only have a couple minutes, but this is something that I feel like people might not know. So for Jessica in particular and I guess me too, because I'm an actor, but what is a union, and would you recommend joining a union? And we'll start with that for a second. Are you part of the union? Do you recommend it? What are your thoughts on it?
So yes, I am with Actors Equity, the union for actors. I am specifically
for theater. So I think that's a good thing for people to note if they have no idea about unions.
And yes, so I am part of Actors Equity. do I recommend being part of a union? This is a very tricky question because I think it's changed. When I was 22 and auditioning, I would say no, do not be a part of the union, because the way the theaters worked that I was auditioning for, they only had a small number of union contracts, but most of which went to the principal roles. Most of them of the ensemble, which was me, would be non-union. So most of my career, I was non-union, and I did a lot of work because that's how it was 10 years ago. My mother was a dancer, and 30 years ago, she was part of the union and constantly worked. It just, now I'm not auditioning right now, but I think it has shifted. So should you be a part of the union now? I almost can't answer that because I'm not auditioning and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, I would say the same thing. I'm part of the SAG-AFTRA, which is the TV sort of film, that kind of on camera union. And I would say the same thing. So before I joined the union, I was auditioning a lot for very different projects. And then once you join the union, it's a lot more concentrated what you're able to go in for, and it affects how often you can go and work. But I'm going to ask one more just quick question, because I think that a lot of people would appreciate this. What did you learn at camp that you still carry with you today?
I think to have fun and enjoy nature. Trees. I love trees and the joy that nature brings, and dancing and have fun.
I love that. Rebecca, anything to piggyback on that?
Really cherish every day at Usdan. It's like one of the most magical places. The nature, the people, you learn so much about yourself. And even though you might feel like maybe different from your home friends, like maybe your other friends at home aren't doing the same thing as you, like, you're unique and you're an artist, and Usdan is going to like be part of your foundation forever.
Oh, what a good note to end on. Thanks, guys. So everyone, I know it's like a little heart emoji in my heart too. Guys, let us know. I mean, first of all, everyone, thank you so much for being a part of this. If you have any ideas for future workshops in the fall or future panels, let us know. We're going to send a survey out. Please fill out the survey. It doesn't take long. It's just a great way for us to have an idea of what to go on for the future. For any alums in the audience, for other ways to stay connected with us, we have a special referral discount you can ask us about. And finally, we hope you'll join us at the Community Day and fundraiser on July 20th, which is during the camp day from 12 to 5 p.m. and pre-sale tickets. And you can learn more. You can contact us at gala@usdan.org. Again, we want to thank everyone for attending here. Thank you, Olivia, for helping to organize this. Jessica and Rebecca, thank you for your participation, for sharing your experiences with all of us. For everyone who's going to be watching us later, thank you guys for that. And we can't wait to support you. We can't wait to read your book and to hear more about all the awesome things that you guys are doing. And Olivia will be emailing this recording to everybody, and it'll be on YouTube. So thank you again. Have a great evening, everyone. We appreciate you, and have a great night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.